what's happened in the last video.
What?
And here is more MrDudeManSir.
I was awoken by a sharp pain in the back of my head. Opening my eyes, I realized I was lying sprawled out on the floor. It looks like I fell asleep and slipped off my chair. It was 9 o'clock. God dang it, it looks like I was sleeping for 5 hours straight. Anything could have happened. Horrified, I patted myself down and everything seemed to be in its place. That's close. I shook our squad to wake. My turn already? You sleep too much. Well, I've been sitting here all night long. Yeah, sitting there, sleeping yourself. Sure, that was a lie, but telling that I spent the night running for my life from the grasshoppers definitely wasn't an option. I'm sorry. Rowler hung his head. Don't worry about it. I'm hungry as heck. Masha stretched out and gave me a cute smile. And why are you all still here? Don't you remember anything? What's the matter? Everyone's gone, said Alyssa gloomily. Say what? Everyone's gone. Vanished in the thin air. Masha glanced out of a window and said nothing. Seemed like she remembered now. Well, getting something to eat is indeed a fine idea. Nobody was going to object. It was not like I was in the mood to eat, same as everyone else, but ultimately, everyone knew we had to keep ourselves running. Soon enough, we were sitting in the canteen, quietly digging into whatever we could find. Want me to cook something? Inquired Masha quietly. Let's wait for lunch. For now, it's fine. She gave me a disappointed look. Okay, so what are we going to do? We have to get out of here. But the police. We have to get out of here, I repeated stubbornly. But how? Bus. It's highly unlikely that one will come. It doesn't run too often. At least there should be a timetable somewhere around here. I tried to remember if I've seen the bus map or a timetable somewhere. Probably not. Then we'll go on foot. Anything's better than staying here. But it's a long way to... well, we might hitch a lift. Here in the middle of nowhere? I doubt that. Oh, stop with that drama. Although thinking about it, it's exactly the right time for drama. I'm not being dramatic, but... That's it, end the story. What are you gonna say when we reach the city? Well, tell them the truth. We came to shoot a movie, then... What movie? Okay, stop fooling around, will you? I buried my face in my hands, feeling run down. And if I was even if it was some kind of funny yesterday, although it really wasn't. You can't stop it now. I don't get you. Oh, you're still going to keep pretending that you came here not to shoot a movie but to roleplay as a pioneer? I didn't understand a thing. Alyssa swept her surprised gaze. Oh, my headphones fell off. Alyssa swept her surprised gaze across everyone. Is it not working? No? There we go. But we are pioneers. What pioneers, for God's sake? Masha, who's kept silent so far, butted in. It's the 21st century out there. Yeah, right, pioneers. 21st? Looks like we are indeed in a deep mess. So you're all going to say that you are... well, we are. No more pioneers, you just came here on vacation for a week or so? A heavy silence followed. Well, yeah. I cast a look at Masha. It looks like she doesn't know how to react either. I signaled to her, pointing at the door. Excuse me for a second. Having gone outside, I asked, what do you think? Well, she adopted the pose of an ancient Greek thinker. It looks like they genuinely believe that, and some folks named Senyon and Miku, wearing them shoes until yesterday. Some. Well, I guess you're more familiar with them than I am. Oh, come on, I interrupted her. Couldn't you come up with me with a more feasible theory? I still have absolutely no theories at all. I no longer know what to think. Me either. But anyway, all heck is breaking loose. Here, even without taking pioneers into account. Murders. Dozens of people disappearing without a trace. That ought to be our top priority now. I looked closely at Masha. I wonder how she can keep such a cool head under these circumstances. Sure, I'm also trying to keep calm, but... that means... what? Let's leave this issue for later. But at least a wild guess. I guess it's somehow connected to the disappearances. It's safe to assume that one, or even 2 or 3. Humans couldn't deal with so many people at once. Agreed. It might be that this phenomenon somehow affected them. It might be. Anyway, it's easy to believe that, for example, we're in a parallel reality or something. You know, by now I'm willing to believe in anything. Let's just stick to this theory for now. Okay. Let's go. You go ahead, I'll be back in a minute. It's dangerous to be all alone. Seriously, what's so dangerous? Broad daylight and everything's around here. Okay. She gave me a faint smile and headed back into the canteen. But still, her behavior is so odd. It looks like the last few days changed everything and everyone, including Masha. Yesterday, shock, fear, trembling. Today, cold, sensible reasoning. Dang, she's even more self-assured than me. Oh, blah! No. Something? No. Where was I? Okay, there we go. Could it be just a good sleep? Well, there's something wrong with her, too. Sure, she doesn't think she's a pioneer like everyone else does, but still. If something has happened to them, then maybe it also happened to me. No, it can't be. Everything seems to be fine. I've double-checked my body and found no abnormalities. Okay, I have to keep calm and control myself. I got up and was about to return to the canteen when suddenly I heard a tiny voice from behind my back, as if someone was calling for me. I got down from the porch and took a few steps toward the voice. Someone was peering at me from behind a tree. Oh dear, it was Oyana! No, not Oyana, but something that looked like her. I froze in my tracks. Half of her face was torn and hanging down in shreds. Her grinning jaw trembled nervously as if in laughter. A bloodshot eye, hanging out of its socket, suddenly shriveled its pupil to look at me. I stopped breathing. I felt like I was gonna die right now due to the shock. Semyon, the thing that seemed to be Oyana, was calling for me. My legs began to give out. I tried hard not to collapse, tried to scream, tried to run away. But my consciousness already left the body that was now just a rag doll, moving by the will of an invisible puppet master. One more second and... Hey! I instinctively turned towards the word, caught my sight of Masha standing by the porch, and then instantly looked back to Oyana. But she was gone. Masha seemed to notice the deathly pallor upon my face and jumped over to me in a blink of an eye. What happened? I just saw Oyana, there. I pointed my finger towards the tree. Sure, the sight of the butchered Slavia was indeed gruesome. But at least she was dead and not walking around in broad daylight with her face torn apart, and she wasn't calling me by my name, even if the name wasn't my own. The last ounces of my strength deserted me as I collapsed to my knees. What? Where? Masha was shaking me by the shoulders. It wasn't her, that was... I don't know. Get a hold of yourself. I felt a round arm slap hit me in the face, and gave Masha a questioning look. My cheek burned, but I slowly started to regain my composure. Oyana was there, with her face, and basically it was a zombie. A zombie Oyana. That's the most rational explanation I can give. Masha looked at me dumbfounded. Anything can happen here. If you'd seen her yourself... Thank God I didn't. Come on, I'll get you some water. I described my encounter to that with the creature in detail to everyone. I can tell you one thing. The science can't explain whatever's going on here at the moment. Science, it's outrageous that devilry happening here. The hand of Satan. I wished I had a church nearby to light a candle. Linda said nothing, resorted to quiet sobbing. I almost had completely recovered, and now I was able to think straight. Now it's completely clear that we have to get out of here. Well, I'm not a real scientist, let alone a paranormalist, but if I recall correctly, all these demons and spirits are bound to a certain place, therefore if we get away from this place. Now that's an excellent solution. Masha grinned in skeptically. I agree. I exclaimed, ignoring her. Yeah. Landis gave me a barely noticeable nod. So it's all settled. I slammed my fist on the table and surged to my feet. Hold on, it's not like we all agreed on that. Why would we hesitate? I seriously wouldn't want another second encounter with a thing like that. Where will we go? Do you even realize how long it will take to reach a city on foot? Dang it, do you really think that nobody ever rides the road? Car, a bus, whatever, we'll get something eventually. I wouldn't be so sure. So you think that it's better to stay here? Well, I didn't say that. It's scary here, especially at night, Lena whispered quietly. That still doesn't mean that we have to go anywhere. I said Masha out loud. I gave her a narrow look. No, something was surely changing her. Perhaps I should have had a gentle talk with her about it. Or perhaps I shouldn't. Maybe she's also... Okay, let's take a vote. I said that in quite a confident tone, yet I had my doubts. What if Masha was right? Perhaps we shouldn't be running around aimlessly. On one hand, I have no idea what awaits us beyond the gates of this camp. On the other hand, it's really heck-breaking loose out there. Okay, she shrugged. And still, I won't stand for another minute here. Leaving. Staying. Let's try it. Maybe we'll indeed get lucky and catch a ride. Leaving. Everyone turned their eyes towards Lena. I don't want to stay here. It seemed like my decision wasn't going to affect the outcome anyway. So let's get going. Well, I sprang to my feet. Everyone else remained seated with their hands down. Since we decided... Masha got up slowly and looked at me. What about our stuff? Asked Alyssa awkwardly. Do you really think that we should care now? Mumbled Router gloomily. Well, you're probably right. Well, in my case, my stuff has already been vanished somewhere. In a few minutes we were standing at the bus stop. The city is that way. Masha gestured at the horizon. It was there, the day before yesterday. I grinned. Yeah, that way. Router confirmed. We paused in silence for moments, then slowly headed off towards our destination. The summer sun was unbearably scorching, making the asphalt melt. Everything a few hundred feet away, the roads, the trees, the grass, the sky, was melting in a bright heat haze that looked more like a burning fog. I was streaming with sweat and was starting to think that I was getting sunstroke. Sure, it would have been a great idea to bring more water with us, but back when we were settling, only thing could be was to get our butts out of there as far as possible out of the day camp. Eventually, I felt like I was about to lose consciousness. Only the wretched trills of grasshoppers kept me in touch with reality. Of course. This heckish noon is indeed their favorite part of the day. They couldn't care less about the scorching heat, zero humidity, or the lack of any kind of air movement. On the contrary, they felt great. It was a perfect backdrop for the final act of their last apocalyptic symphony. We probably should have stayed at the camp after all. At least we should have started this hike later, closer to the evening. Although wandering the unknown country road at night is hardly a good idea either. The sound of a stifled cry came from behind me. 100 feet away, Alyssa was barely holding up Lena, keeping her from collapsing to the ground. I dashed up to them. What's the matter? She's fainted. I helped to carry Lena to the roadside. There was at least some shade from a small grove. And that concludes our hike, said Masha in a gloomy mood, sinking down into the grass. I warned you. Fine, but what does it change now? We've been traveling for at least a couple of hours, so thinking heading back to the camp was pointless. Well, at least until the evening, when the heat will decrease a bit. Now, I pressed the wrong button. There you go. And we still haven't seen a single car. I turned around and looked at Router. He pulled off a shirt and began to wring the shred out of it. Alyssa tried to revive Lena. If that's sunstroke... Stop! She shouted at me. That's indeed sunstroke. We've gotten ourselves in deep trouble. She won't make it anywhere. We walked towards the road, shielded our eyes from the sun with my hand, and stared into the distance. Nothing but the same asphalt thread leading beyond the horizon, with no signs of civilization, or any signs of human presence at all. It was like the only people left, not only in the camp, but in the whole world. Though if you think about it, what was happened before was not really a big surprise. I went back to the others and sat down in the fog. I guess we have a scout ahead. I looked at Router. To check what's ahead, maybe we could find something, and you could stay here for a while. But she can't go anywhere right now anyway. Lena was lying with her eyes closed and gasping for air. Okay, go ahead, said Masha calmly. It has occurred to me that I planned to have a talk with her, but it's definitely not the time for that now. Let's go? Router shrugged his shoulders and followed me. We kept walking for about 15 minutes. The girls were left far behind. What do you think? Any chance of meeting somebody? He asked quietly. I don't know. I replied in an annoyed tone. I really wanted to refrain from talking now. The endless fields stretched into the horizon, sparsely sprinkled with the patches of trees and hills. The landscape looked so typical and tranquil that, in fact, it caused anxiety. If we found ourselves in the plains of hell, at least we would expect to be attacked from just anywhere, so we would brace ourselves and prepare for the worst. Now we just felt like little droplets of paint on the canvas of a nameless painter who paints the summer of Central Africa. Africa, of course. It's definitely Africa. Now we just felt like little droplets of paint on the canvas of a nameless painter who paints the summer in Central Russia, or wherever we are now. All this only made our fear stronger. "Look," yelled Router. I narrowed my eyes and saw the road took a turn. So what's so special? There must be something there. What makes you think that? Well, since there's a turn, we have been walking straight forward all the time now. Okay, let's go take a look. Oh no! Oh no! In a few minutes we finally came to the gates of the Sovanok Pioneer Camp. I collapsed on the curb and buried my face in my hands. I didn't feel scared. In fact, I didn't feel any emotions at all. Just the fatigue and void inside of me. But how? Mumbled Router. No idea. Besides, what's the difference anyway? It's not like this is any stranger than anything else that's happened to us in the last few days. I looked up at him and felt exhausted. Router's lips were trembling. An expression of deathly horror was plastered on his face. Let's go back and fetch the girls. I didn't wait for him and just shuffled back to where we left them. Found anything? Asked Masha, chewing on some strawberries of certain origin. We did. A camp. What camp? She looked surprised. Our camp. What? Masha looked so silly now, so I couldn't help but flashing an ironic smile. But you are going forward, not backward. Forward, and the Sovanok is there. Hey, stop joking, she exclaimed. I'm dead serious. But, said Alyssa quietly. She was sitting down on the grass and cradling the heads of Lena, who was still sleeping. Yeah, just like that. I said tiredly and dropped down onto the ground. Okay, it means we're heading there. I looked at Masha keenly and suddenly realized that I can't wait anymore. Hey, what's happening with you? What do you mean? Her look screamed that it's now time for a breezy chatter. You were scared to death yesterday. You had to tell you have "this happens to me all the time" attitude. But what's the point in panicking? She cradled a barely visible smile. If I didn't know you, I went quiet, bit my lip and turned away. But really, do I know her that well? Sure, we spent so many years together, but if you get down to it, I've always thought more about myself. Or rather, I've always believed that she was completely satisfied. And she was always the same to me. The same just about anything. Even when we're breaking up, as if she's a real person, just my favorite article of clothing. Thinking about it, I have no idea what's going on in her soul. I've just never cared about it. Thus behaving like this under the circumstances just doesn't seem more bizarre than anything else that's happening to us. If you think about all the talk at the beach the 2 evenings ago, she probably really is stronger than me. Hey, are you listening to me at all? Oh, sorry, I got carried away. So what just happened? She looked at me sternly. Let's get going to the camp, or wherever you were, if it's the same old camp. All right. In fact, it's not like we had any other choice. A few more hours in the scorching heat would only yield more casualties. Did she actually die? Did Lena die? Did we just leave her? Is that what's happening? Okay, we have to carry her along. Good, I spoke too soon. Good thing. Just a second. Let me figure it out. I found 2 fairly long and sturdy sticks by a nearby grove. Coming back, I ordered Router to take his shirt off. It's like, hey, take your shirt off. I need to see those abs. He tried to object, but soon enough he realized that there was no use in arguing. I took off my shirt as well, and we made a sort of stretcher, attaching the fabric to the poles. Will it hold? Masha gave our device a questioning look, but ultimately gave it a few strong pulls, ensuring its strength, and smiled. It will, at least until we reach the camp. It was hard to go in this heat, but even harder to carry the injured. That is, Lena. Several times I almost fainted and barely caught myself halfway to the ground. Router even felt even worse. Both Masha and Alyssa were swapping places with him every now and again. Still, my pride won't allow me to to ask... That was terrible. Still, my pride won't allow me to ask him to carry Lena even for a minute. Sure, it's silly to act like this under these circumstances, but it couldn't help myself. This is yet another flaw in my personality, along with my coldness, inattentiveness to the others, even my loved ones, the less than noble traits. Finally, we somehow made it to the camp gates, and I collapsed to the grass in the shadow of the unknown pioneer statue, completely worn out. It is actually our camp. Much lingered on the words. And indeed, it looks the same. We have to carry her to the cabin, Alyssa mentioned quietly. Yeah. I got up with considerable effort and prepared for the last run. The obvious choice was Olga Dmitrievna's cabin. Most likely because we managed to come through the last night here without major problems. At least we're still alive. Me and Rowder were sprawled exhausted on the bed, and the girls were undressing Lena on the other. That's great. Don't look, said Masha sternly. It's not like there's anything worth looking at. Oh dear. I snorted and turned away, giving Rowder a harsh poke in the ribs, making him follow my lead. We're going to get some water and probably rummage at the canteen too. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Want to come along? She grinned. No thanks. At least you'd take the pipe with you. I said uncertainly. Do you really think it'll help? I sighed heavily, closing my eyes. Well, be careful then. And closed the door after a second. You asleep? Rowder's whisper reached me, as if one could sleep here. All at once I heard Lena moan from the other bed. I sat up on my elbows and looked at her. Lena was tossing and turning under the blanket. Suddenly she opened her eyes and abruptly turned to face me. Oh dear, a devil's grin was frozen on her face. The same one I saw yesterday evening. Hot enough for ya, eh? She burst into laughter. I felt a shiver run down my spine. My ability to speak vanished. You... What? Asked Rowder through his sleep. I turned to him sharply. Look! I waved my hands pointing at Lena's bed. What? He got up and looked, and it was pointing first, and back at me. I turned and just saw Lena sleeping peacefully. Didn't you hear it? What? Her. Lena was awake and said, "Oh, it seems you've gotten sunstroke too." He turns towards the wall. But I'm absolutely sure I heard and saw it. Well, it could be true that the heat got to me at last, but it all seems to be exactly like that time. And it wasn't Lena. At the very least, it's not Lena I knew. She was possessed by the devil. I lay down and pulled a blanket over my head. I really wanted to sleep, but the realization that I might never wake up again if I fall asleep was now keeping me up and running. I'm not sure how long I spent lying like that, trembling at every rustle, but eventually the door burst open and steps resounded in the room. I barely peered out from under the blanket and caught a glimpse of Alyssa and Masha entering with a bucket of water and some bags. I see you went a bit cuckoo there. Yeah, sorta. I replied with a trembling voice, trying to flash a smile. Everything's okay? Seems like it. I glanced at Lena yet again, and she was still sleeping quietly. Maybe it was indeed just my imagination. Sure, given a condition of such extreme emotional distress, physical fatigue, I might be seeing things. I got up with considerable effort, took a cup from the table, and scooped up some water. So what are you doing next? We'll have to stay here for now. But Olga Dmitrievna had called the police, muttered Alyssa. Yeah, but everyone disappeared after that. In any case, until Lena comes to her senses. Although if I ever happen to see her like that again, I would frankly rather that she never wake up. Alyssa lay down on Lena's bed, and Masha sat down next to me. Get some sleep, would ya? She gently stroked the top of my head. Can you really sleep with all this happening? We'll keep guard. You really look tired. I guess she was right. Okay, but just a nap. Wake me up before evening. She didn't say a word, just smiled instead. Promise. I promise, replied Masha quietly. I closed my eyes and instantly tumbled into a dream.